Hello, everyone. I'm Nikita, and you're listening to Be Do Have, a podcast about personal and spiritual journeys that will lead us to create who we want to be, do things from that place of being to have what we want and need. So today we have none other than the human vibe detector on the show, and she's just going to drop some gems for us. How are you, Keisha?
Yes, I'm doing awesome. I'm
Kiasha.
so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm ready. I'm ready to have this conversation. I feel like it's going to be so rich.
Yeah, I agree. Did you set any intentions for coming on the show today?
So, you know what? I really, really, really wanted to go with the flow with this conversation. So I didn't set any other specific intention other than for our voices to reach who they are intended to reach, and for the things that we say to really just settle on their hearts and bloom into whatever it's supposed to bloom into. Simple, easy
Ashe,
peasy.
Ashe. All right. I think I'm aligned with that. So we're good. So we'll just jump right into it. So you call yourself the human vibe detector. Can you just kind of give me or tell us a little bit more about your version of the human vibe detector?
Yes. So my social media handles, Your Black Doula, are kind of, the headline. But what I want people to pay attention in the fine print, uh, that's why I put human vibe detector there. And what that means for me is really just the ability to hone in your intuition, to trust your intuition, and that goes so deeply in birth work. Your intuition is everything. Your connection to that intuition, your connection to the ancestors that came before us and did this work, um, that is all going to be the foundation of who you are as a birth
Mm-hmm.
worker. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a skill that has to be fine tuned. Um, and a lot of people don't understand the hard work and the depth of this work. Um, and so it's of the utmost importance that your intuition be sharp, your empathy be deep, and your heart be
Mm.
open.
I love that. I have a question. So me personally, for the majority of my life, I've always chosen logic over how I feel. And I would go into situations more practical versus, more intuitive. And I think recently I've started to pivot where I have started to try to get to know my intuition, go within, go off how I feel about a situation as opposed to what I think about a situation, right? Because our brains are lazy and each experience is new, but it'll always go back to what it knows. It's like a computer. And I think missing that key, I guess, lesson in my life to go with my gut, go with my intuition, go with how I feel about things has caused me to endure trauma that I didn't have to necessarily if I did understand and know how powerful this built-in mechanism we all have called the intuition is. So, like, what advice would you give someone like me who were so out of touch with their intuition to kind of get back to that? Because I think that that's something that we all have. It's natural. It's a natural ability. But what advice would you give us to like get back to that?
So it's really, really important that we realize that we all carry intuition. And what ends up happening a lot of times is life kind of beats the logic into us, right? When we when we thinking things strictly logically, it kind of feels like you're going to be safe, right? It feels like you're able to plan things out. It feels like you're able to prepare. You can be more fully prepared. It's kind of um, a nice
Mm-hmm.
security blanket for you. But what you find when you are rigidly stuck in logic in one path, when life is so all about ebbs and flows, what ends up happening
Mm-hmm.
is you are then, rather than feeling as if you are being guided along by life, you end up feeling like you're being jolted in life because you have this rigid
Yep.
path that you are just determined to stick to. And life is saying, no, how about just a little bit this way? Just a little bit this way. And so you're going to be met with so much more resistance. That fear is going
Mm-hmm.
to keep you in a state of mind where you are missing some of those things that might just be on the outskirts of the trail. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, if you just allow your intuition to guide you, it's so important that we like you said, we allow our intuition to be a voice that we follow. We're going to be able to get steered out of some of those situations that we otherwise might not have fallen into. And sometimes like I said, life will beat the logic into you. Life will um, kind of force you into a structure. And a lot of times it never really feels right. It never really feels comfy, right? You never really feel settled
Mm-hmm.
or grounded because it's always a resistance rather than kind of
Mm-hmm.
just a gentle bending, you know.
Yep.
And it's really just a trick of our own minds and our own insecurities to feel that we have to hold on to that.
Yep. I agree. I agree. I never really felt like a full person. I always felt like something was out of sync. And I think the more that I did go down this path of trying to find out who I am, where I stand in this world, and get to know my intuition and my higher self and trust myself and those feelings that I have because they were so foreign to me at one point. I think it just made life that much more. I don't even want to say simpler, but I think I was able to bounce back more when I was met with resistance and just kind of have that peace and give myself grace to say, all right, look, it is what it is, moving right along. So how did you become to know this aspect of yourself, this version of yourself, when you speak about like intuition and, using that to do the work that you do? Like, what brought you to that?
Um, so miraculously enough, I have been in the birth home supporting mom since I was 15 years old. So there has been a lot of time for me to practice utilizing empathy and intuition to kind of cater to what other people need. I have always been able to kind of have a keen sense of temperature in the room, you might say, and be able to kind of help to shift if things are negatively affected. And that truly is, an awesome tool in the birth room. However, it is not an awesome tool when you have not been taught to trust yourself, when you have not been taught to trust your own decision making. Because what ends up happening
Mm-hmm.
is, and what happened to me was, I was really not comfortable feeling my own feelings. I was much more
Mm-hmm.
comfortable helping others kind of walk through their own feelings. And so what ended up happening is one day, who I thought I was and who I really was kind of ended up having a clash. There was a feeling, that jolting feeling, that I'm not comfortable
Mm-hmm.
feeling, that, wait a minute, do I really know me outside of all of these outside things? Those type of
Yep.
moments. And it wasn't a nice moment. It wasn't a pretty moment. It was a, damn, I'm 30 and I don't know me, and I need to start over. um, what I found was that all of those years of really digging deep to find what made others feel special, feel whole, feel loved, um, feel heard and respected, I had to give those things to myself. I was so freely,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, um, trusting and giving of other people. And I just hadn't learned how to do that, for myself. Um, and you get to a point in life where you are just uncomfy. And when you get uncomfy enough, you're going to begin to shift. You're going to begin to start checking off the list and see what needs to go. So there, or what do I need more of? And I realized that I couldn't just I couldn't just spend my life making others feel at ease. And in pouring
Mm.
into myself, I was, of course, able to give so much more to the families that I serve, um, to the doulas that are coming up behind me. It's just, you think that giving all you have away is the only way that you can give, and that is not it.
Oh no.
Um,
I think
Giving
we've been indoctrinated to
yourself,
believe that.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Don't you think it's ironic that the things that we need the most, it's so easy for us to give them away, but it's so hard for us to keep them and hold on to them and give some of that to ourselves. Like, I wonder, like, what's the lesson there for you to how, like, for you to be able to be so empathetic and so given and to give everything that you have away to other people, but you wasn't able to pour back into yourself or for your own cup. Like, what led you to, be this version of yourself?
Oh man, it was a breaking. It was a breakdown. It was a loss of everything that I thought I had, including my health. Um, and I began to realize that the more that I gave away, and it seemed so very simple, the more that I gave away, the less I had for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it felt great to have people, love me. Um, but in the end, I was left with an empty cup, and my body physically, and in a lot of ways, mentally and emotionally shut down. It was
Wow.
very much a forced shift in mindset. Um, you
Mm.
may have heard people say, in some way or another, if you don't take breaks, your body will take them for you, and it's going to be at a much more inconvenient time. So you need to just, you have to learn how to do that, and that did not come for me, especially. I'm the oldest of five siblings, so and I became a mother at 19. There's not really much time in my life where I don't remember taking care of someone. So at
Mm.
24, for my body to completely shut down, that was a very, very intense time of introspection. That my little 24-year-old self was not ready to sit down and have, you know. But
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. And it sucks that it had to get to that situation where I had to, I had doctors in my face saying, "Hey, you have to put yourself first on this list, or you're not going to be alive
Mm.
to make a list." How about that? I had to I
Oh
had to
wow.
really face that. Um, and most 24-year-olds are not staring their mortality in their face. So I really,
Mm.
had to begin the process of change. And man, I did some stumbling. I made raggedy choices, along the way. Um,
Haven't we all?
right. But that's how we grow. We don't grow when we're comfy. We grow
Yeah,
when we're uncomfy. That's how we know it's time to move. So it
for
wasn't
sure.
pretty and it wasn't fun, but it was real.
So, do you feel like there were other lessons that life was trying to, not lessons, but like other signs that life was trying to throw at you before it got to that point to where you were staring mortality in the face and you just kind of like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
okay.
I was actually diagnosed with lupus in 2011 when I was 24, but I had been sick for about 2 years before that. Um,
Mm.
and they were having so much trouble, figuring out what was wrong. I did not think that, that things were going to be as serious as they were. So I was kind of dragging my feet. When it was time to follow up with my doctors, I was um, just kind of not taking things as seriously as I should have. And
Mm.
so I really didn't. I really didn't give myself the proper love. I wasn't giving myself the proper nutrition, any of that. And so what I didn't know, on top of going to school, on top of working, on top of being a single mom, I was just going and going and going and going and going and going, not
Mm.
really taking the time to kind of build a village that could surround and support me. Um, and so it was a hard fall when I absolutely could do nothing for myself. And so I had to really learn to, build community with people that really love me, connect with people that um, really truly care for me. Learning who is really there for you and who is not, and how to really discern that. How to
Mm.
listen to that discernment, because it's not enough to just have the intuition and be like, oh, I knew she was a snake. Okay, but she was her friend for 3 years. You have to listen. You have to follow the intuition. It's a tool. Uh, it's a
Right.
tool, for your benefit, and a lot of times for the benefit of a lot of people around you. We don't
Mm.
realize how big our sphere of influence is. And when we
Mm.
are able to trust ourselves, and we learn that, and that's what I ended up having to do, to start all over again. So many times in this illness, there's a
Mm.
knockdown, um, seemingly at another inopportune time, for another crazy reason, but there is always something that I learned. It's a stank
Mm.
way to learn it, but it has, it's just been what it's what I get is what I got, and I have to work with it, and learn.
Okay. Um, so I have two things. One thing is, how important, or what advice would you give someone who has a mentality that they don't need anyone but themselves to survive in this life? Like, how important is it to build community as opposed to having a, every man for themselves mentality, or I don't need anyone mentality?
Yeah, it's really, really difficult to break out of that, um, because although Black people have come from um, communities. We have come from nations that have valued strong, strong foundations in community and family, and built very, very strong nations on those principles. Of course, we know that we had so many of those values and principles stripped from us. So we are rebuilding, we are relearning, we are decolonizing, right? And that
Mm.
takes
Mm-hmm.
time. That takes time. And so, what the very first step is to kind of shift your mindset into thinking, I deserve a village. Because we often think that
Yes.
if I'm not able to do this on my own, even if you're a family, you might say, if I me and my partner and my kids, and that's it, that's all we need. If we can't do it, we can't get it done. It seems like a noble thought to have. It seems like um, a really nice family mantra. It's just us against the world. However, that is not how we are meant to be. We are meant to create
Mm-hmm.
systems and foundations that are going to support every family in our community, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
makes bringing back the familiarity with doula work and midwifery care, and a more holistic birth care. That's what makes it so important to bring back to our families. We are so used to um, our doctors seeing us so sporadically throughout our pregnancy. We are not understanding that there are so many other complementary um, alternative practitioners that are able to support you throughout your pregnancy, so that we are creating a network, a safety net for families. That
Mm,
is what community is meant to be, a safety net for families in that community, so that when one is in need, there is not a problem with access. There's not, a wait. There's not hoop to jump through and red tape to jump over. Because if I know you have it, that means I have it as well. If I have it, you have it as well. And no one is without.
mm,
No one is in lack. Um, so it absolutely takes time to rebuild
mm,
that mindset. Um, it is it is an issue of trust. It is, especially where in a society where we have been taught um, not to trust
mm,
ourselves, not to trust our own traditions, not to trust our own people. So that
mm,
takes a little bit of vulnerability to say, yes, I do
mm.
need help and support. And then also, I deserve help and support. It does not make me a failure of any kind. It does not mean that I'm
Yes.
weak. It does not mean that I'm unintelligent or incapable. It does not mean that I am not worthy. It does not mean that I am not beautiful and bright. It does not mean I'm not a great mother or a great father or a great friend or a great sister. It means that I'm an amazing mother because I am getting all the support I
Mm,
can. I am pouring all the resources I can into my family. It means I'm an amazing dad. I'm an amazing sister and neighbor and friend. So community is everything. Community is everything.
yeah. I think that was, and it's actually still a really hard lesson that I'm trying to learn is how to ask for help without feeling like I am a failure or feeling like I am a bother or a nuisance to people or feeling like I'm weak, that I can't hold my own ground. Like, actually, I love that you say that asking for help and being able to vocalize and stand on it and know that you're worthy and you're deserving of it is a sign of strength and not weakness. But it's almost like we're trained, and I don't know where I got this from because I came from a big ass family and we support each other. Um, like, I don't even understand like where that came from. Actually, I kind of do, but I'm still like working through it. I think for me, it came from my relatives and my siblings seeing me as, a pillar of strength. And so by me having to ask for help, like it just turned like into like me just feeling like I'm a piece of shit, I'm a failure, I'm weak, um, and all of the above. So I am still trying to unlearn that. But yeah, I love that you touched on that.
And that
And I
really,
know that you already, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, it's not just you. It was me too. Because we're in a
Mm,
society that teaches us that it's supposed to be every man for themselves, and that there's weakness in reaching out and asking for help, especially Black women. We're supposed to be able to carry
yeah.
ourselves and everybody else. And asking for help,
Yes.
to a lot of people, a Black woman asking for help is begging. For a lot of people, a Black woman who feels depressed
Mm-hmm.
is a Black woman with an attitude. For a lot of people, a Black woman
Mm-hmm.
who is irritable, um, who feels weak, who feels overwhelmed, she is weak and irritable, rather than just overwhelmed and in need of help. Every we've been conditioned to kind of just take our very, very valid um, feelings and emotions, and weaponize them against ourselves because everybody else does. We are,
Mm-hmm.
the burden, the angry Black woman, and a lot of times we will say it to ourselves before anybody else even has the chance to say it to us. We will talk ourselves
Mm-hmm.
out of our very valid feelings and emotions, because we just don't want to deal with the brunt of that people will give us just for expressing regular ass human shit. We don't get that
Hell
same grace
yeah.
as Black women. You know what I mean?
That's
So
true.
a lot of times we learn to just shut our needs down before we even, before they even hear anybody else's ears. So it takes so much
Yep.
practice to remind ourselves, I deserve rest. I deserve peace. I deserve a mind that is not cluttered with everybody else's problems and worries. I deserve, a heart that is full of joy and not
Community.
dealing with people. I deserve community. All of that. And it takes that introspection first.
Okay, so is that so going within and starting with ourselves, do you think that that's the first step that we need to take to kind of break that stigma
So yes,
of the strong Black woman?
absolutely. It sounds, cliche, like just go within, just really, remember and hold
Not to
space
me,
for
girl.
yourself.
Shit.
A lot of people are like, what? That sounds corny, but no, that's real shit. We take a lot of
Oh,
time.
that's powerful.
We take so much time studying other people, learning their likes and their dislikes. You getting to know somebody, you asking them their favorite color, their favorite cereal, their favorite superhero, all of that. Do you know what you like?
Yeah,
And
exactly. I think the more that we do that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I completely agree. Go ahead.
No, I was like, the more that we do that, like, that's why, like you were saying, I'm 30 and I don't even know myself. And I was 33, and I was just starting to go within and really try to figure out who I am and my wants and really what I like. Because I think when we exert too much effort and energy to external needs and external desires, like we kind of adopt them as our own. And it's like, damn, all this shit that I picked up from all these other damn people don't even belong to me. So it's like,
Right.
you have to sift through other people bullshit and other people's, um, like all other people's
Mhm.
shit. You have to sift through that and get that up off you first and be able to identify, this don't belong to me. This don't belong to me. This I picked up along the way. This somebody dropped off,
Yeah.
before you can even start to like ground yourself and really
Mhm.
build that relationship with yourself, which is the most important one relationship
Absolutely.
ever.
Absolutely. And
So,
that takes some maturity and some self-awareness to realize, um, hey, I have some characteristics, I have some habits, I have some ways about myself, um, that I would like to get to the bottom of, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. I would like to
mm,
simply just get to know me. And a
mm.
lot of times your willingness just
And
to
that shit is
say,
hard.
yeah, yeah, you have to be willing, because it's not cute. It's not going to be fun. And a lot of people are going to be like, well,
Mm,
what you digging? What you want to dig all around there for? Or people are very, very uncomfortable when you want to shift your position in their life when it's been super beneficial to them. So you're going to kind of meet some opposition of people who are not comfortable with you changing who you are, because the you right now, perfect. They need that you know and a lot of
yeah.
people are going to show their
Yeah.
ass when you are standing in who you really are, and taking off some of those things that weren't
Mm,
yours to carry in the first place. A lot of people are not going to be with that. They going to be mad. They little feelings are going to be hurt. They're going to feel like you owe them something, and guess what? You don't owe nobody nothing. You owe you everything.
okay. Okay. You know what? This kind of reminds me of that poem. It's from For Colored Women or For Colored Girls. I forget her name, but it was somebody walked away with all my stuff, like, and he was like, they don't even know they got it. It's like people take so much from us, and then once we start to take that power back, it's like they turn around and be like, okay, who the fuck you think you is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you did something wrong because you put yourself first, right? So I think that that's just crazy.
And
That's
that's why it's
crazy.
so important for for us to hold ourselves in a higher regard. We just put ourselves at the bottom of the list
Yes.
so often. And when we
Yes.
do that, people will take parts of us so haphazardly and so quickly. And it'll be another Tuesday to them, and that'll set your heart back 3, 4, 5 years. We have to
Mm-hmm.
hold ourselves in higher regard. We have to be willing
Yes.
to say, I'm better than that. I'm higher than that, and I deserve more. I deserve better. And it just starts with, I deserve to love myself better than I'm loving myself now. It's as simple as, let me drink
Mm-hmm.
more water. Let me, eat more fruit. Let me, continue to do things that really, make my heart smile. My whole day doesn't have to belong to somebody else. I'm allowed to take back my
Yep.
time. I can reclaim my time. I can reclaim my time, and I don't owe anybody an
Yes.
explanation. I owe absolutely no one an explanation for this shift, for this next level. I don't have to put my nose up in the air, but I absolutely have to stand on what I know and what I deserve. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong at all. And whoever
So,
fall away could fall away.
so what advice would you give someone who starts this self-love journey and when they say, I deserve, I'm worthy, X, Y, and Z, and they don't believe it? Because when you first make that pivot, you don't believe like it's hard
No,
for you to say that with certainty. So like what advice would you give someone who's struggling and who's starting this self-love journey?
I will say that in the very beginning, and sometimes, and I'm not even going to say it like it doesn't still happen today on the hard days, right? It's hard to believe. That's why you have to continuously remind yourself, right? So it's going to be some days where you're standing in the mirror, ugly as hell, snotting and crying, just trying to get the words out. I deserve peace. I deserve love. It's going to be some days where it looks ugly. It's going to be some days where it looks ugly. It's going to be some days where it's harder to say that than others. It's going to be some days where you believe it more than others. That is life. That is the ebb and the flow. But what grounding is coming back to that central safety. That's what grounding is.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to bring your mind back
Mm-hmm.
to that central, that core feeling of safety, which is, I deserve love and I deserve to be here. You come back to that,
Mm-hmm.
everything else blooms from that. Okay, well, if I deserve to be here,
Mm-hmm.
what else do I deserve to have? I deserve to have peace while I'm here. I deserve to experience love while I'm here, whether that be romantic love, whether that be the love of a child, whether that be um, whole and healthy love of a parent, whatever that is, um, that has to be your core belief. You have to set that core belief and allow it to be your safety. And that core belief is going to be
Mm-hmm.
true no matter what the day looks like, right? I deserve
Yep.
love, whether my day went wonderfully or it did not, whether I got this new job or I did not, whether I got this new client or I did not. That core truth is still going to be true no matter what, right? So that's where you find your stability, you know. We put our faith in and trust in things that are not real, right? When we young, we put our trust in
Mm-hmm.
these dudes and these chicks that we're with. We put our trust in these jobs. I mean, all of this stuff that we're taught that we should be able to trust in, but we're taught to trust those things far before we're taught to trust ourselves. Like we are always. I hear a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people say, I hit about 30, hit about 32, hit about 33, and then I had to hit the rewind because people are just taking,
Mm-hmm.
scooping chunks out of you and chucking the deuces and leaving you to pick
Yep.
up the pieces. We don't have to live like that at all. We could say no, we could say hell no. However,
Yes.
you need to phrase it
Yes.
to get back to the core belief. Does this fit my core belief? Of me deserving happiness, of me deserving love, this don't feel like love. I ain't doing it. This don't feel like peace. I'm not
What?
gonna stay here.
Why do you think we feel like we don't have permission to do that? And why do you feel like we have to get permission from other people to feel like we deserve to take up space?
Oh man, we humans as a whole, society as a whole, we are taught very, very young that who we are needs to be edited. What we feel needs to be
Mm.
tamed, watered down. Um, our feelings don't need to get too explosive and too big. We need to, we need to sit. We need to, we are taught very, very young how to contain and control. We are not very often given the space to feel and explore, whether that is, an emotion, um, anything in our lives. We are really taught how to kind of control and conceal rather than kind of explore that and manage. And that's, from the time we go to school, and we are learning to sit and, don't bother other people, and don't talk too much and color inside the lines. And we do XYZ every day. And that really drains you of your ability to just trust what you want to do and who you want to be. There's a
Mm.
lot of chipping away.
Mm-hmm.
And if you add on
Mm.
the layers of kind of a religious aspect, if you grow up in a family that's religious, that's another kind of layer that's heaped on you. Then when you go into the workforce, if this is not a field that you are actually passionate about, that's another layer on. And so there's always a layer on top of you covering up who you really are. And so I think what ends up happening is we get to, the 30 somethings. I'm 35. We get to these 30 somethings, and that shit starts to get heavy. I don't know about you, but back was hurt.
You wake up like, wait a damn minute. Like, what the fuck?
It's like I'm high.
Hold up.
I'm
this shit ain't
high.
adding up.
Exactly. I'm one person. Why do I feel like I am carrying the weight of 7? Something's not right. And so you begin to kind of, you're going to get mentally exhausted. You are going to become emotionally exhausted. That's what happens when you carry shit that ain't yours. And so you eventually have to find some place to lay this shit down. A lot of people that's when I started going to therapy. Things started to get too heavy. I started having panic attacks. I started to not be able to come out of my depression. You hear these things. Why? Because the body is going to lay down if you don't lay down. It's going to happen. By the time you hit them 30 somethings, the body is like, you thought that these emotional things could not manifest physically, but they can. You thought that these mental things couldn't manifest physically, but they can, and they will. And that usually is what happens. We think, oh, I'm just too stressed at work. No, baby, you've been carrying. You got 30 years worth of stuff that don't belong to you, and it's hitched to your back, and you need to give it back to who it belongs to, and let them deal with that shit. So you can get down to what you need.
Yep. How do you give that shit back? The shit that don't belong to you, the shit that society, family, friends, co-workers, like, how do you, all that shit that they piled on top of you that wasn't yours, how do you give that shit back? How do you release it?
So, that really has to be something that you take super easy and slow. Because as we said a little bit earlier, people gonna be mad, and you have to let them be mad, and then you also have to be comfortable with perhaps somebody not speaking with you, not wanting to agree to these boundaries. A lot of people are offended when you want to change your position in their life, and especially if you have been that person, whatever that might be, to this family member, to this friend, for all of these years. Y'all grew up together. That's your favorite cousin, or that's your auntie that raised you. But what it really boils down to is anybody that loves you for real, anybody that fucks with you for real, is going to ride these ebbs and flows right along with you. They are going to say,
Oh,
I'm
for
down
sure.
with you, period. And so you have to really, that's why it really takes the time to build up that trust in yourself, because everybody is going to tell you that you're wrong about you. Girl,
Mm,
why you want to change now? What do you mean? You're
mm-hmm.
35 years old.
Yeah.
You done been this way. Okay,
Yep.
we'll see. We'll see, throwing all kinds of negativity. And it doesn't have to be, chuck and deuces and F you forever to every family member and you go off the grid and never talk to nobody again. Not at all. You simply change how you show up and how you respond. And what that means is
Yep.
um, there is naturally, when you work on yourself, there is going to be a change in your presence. It don't gotta be because we don't do stuck up and stank. That's not what we do. No. But what we do is self-confidence. What we do is knowing I'm bad as fuck. We do know that. We do know we are intelligent. We do know we are amazing business owners and mothers. These are things that are what? Core beliefs. These are things that ain't gonna change, right? And so these are the things that we can stand on in the presence of those that say that they love us. And guess what? Those ones that don't want us to shrink, those ones that don't try to deflate our damn balloon when we are starting to feel who we are and learn what we deserve. Those people, I promise you will naturally begin to fall away from those. You will naturally begin to say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if you love me, you'll ride for me. If you love me, you're gonna love this new me that ain't really the new me. You know what I mean?
Right.
You'll love that core of me. And you have
Yep.
to, with those that aren't gonna ride, you have to be willing to love them, and love them in a way that is not going to hinder your growth. There are family members that I
Right.
love dearly that have been in my life since birth. But they are not good for my spirit. They are not good for my daughter's spirit, and I'm responsible, right? I'm responsible for me, and I have to keep myself good. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that.
Yes, I love that. Like, I agree with everything that you just said. But we're going to shift into your specialty. So, explain your role as a doula
Yes.
and just kind of like let us know what a doula is.
Absolutely. So for those of you that do not know, I am a birth doula. I am also the founder of a doula practice, Elephant Song Doula Services in Pittsburgh, PA. And the services that we provide are mental, emotional, physical, and educational support for pregnant women and their families. So, what that might look like is a mom would contact our practice. Let's say they are about 3 months pregnant. This is their first baby. They're very, very excited, but they also admit that they are not very informed on their options about birth, maybe the procedures after baby is born, and they're interested in breastfeeding as well, and really would like some instruction or some information. Awesome. We have 7 months to work with mom and that support person, whether that is a spouse, whether that is a best friend, whether that is your cousin, your sister, close co-worker, your mama, whoever whoever loves you the most and wants to make sure that you and that baby are safe. And so what we're able to do is work with this mom and the support person throughout that pregnancy, to teach them childbirth prep, to help them build their birth plan and learn every option that they have, whether that is hospital setting, birth center setting, or a home birth setting. Um, we are also able to teach classes that include breastfeeding, postpartum wellness, and also newborn care. So we want to really, really create a nice cushion of information and education for families to fall back on. So we're not learning on the job, you know. We are not seeing things for the very first time when we get in the delivery room, you know. We are not seeing a baby booty for the very first time when it's our baby's booty. We really have some families just don't have a frame of reference. If you have not, you know, grown up around babies, for some crazy reason, people do not think that childbirth is something that needs to be taught. If you ask me, um, children need to learn this. There is not a human on this planet
Mm.
that has not um, been the result of some pregnancy. So I think that this is life. This is um, you know, there are only a few ways this can happen. So we really need we I would love I start with families, with couples, so that you know, this journey from um, pregnancy to parenthood is not so lonely. We are already kind of just thrown out there to the wolves. They say, "Congratulations, you're going to be a mom. See you in another 8 weeks for another appointment." And you're like, okay. And you know, a lot of families are just kind of they're getting their information at as much as they can at the doctor's appointments, but you don't know the right questions to ask. If you don't know, again, the options that are available to you, oh my goodness, this can be so overwhelming. So I really love to support families, and I love to do it in a culturally competent way. Okay, if you're looking out there for literature and
Mm.
books, you know, on things like breastfeeding, you ain't gonna see a brown nipple, ain't gonna be a brown titty. So we have to speak to each other, right? We have, so we have to speak in a way and teach in a way that that we can relate to. You know, I was a 19-year-old mom, and nobody was talking to me. Nobody was talking to me when they were speaking
Hmm.
about breastfeeding. Nobody was talking to me when they were speaking about this process that my body was about to go through. Luckily for
Hmm.
me, I had parents that were extremely open about the natural processes of pregnancy and birth. And because I fell in love with just being around and supporting pregnant women, after seeing my mom pregnant so much, I was blessed to be present for the birth of two of my siblings. So that really just gave me a view that, you know, most people my age didn't have. And so, you know, by the time I was in high school, I was really able to offer support that was really unique. You know, my friends were having children and were
Mm.
already parents, and so it was a 15-year-old talking to another 15-year-old and letting her know, hey, you know, you can eat this, or you having some heartburn. You know, this is a nice little natural remedy for that. You know, it was very informal, but it was very the relationship was there. And that's what matters most in doula work is the relationship. That's how you build the relationship plus that intuition is going to be a beautiful, beautiful relationship between doula and client. Because able to feel what you need, even sometimes when you're not able to say it, when you don't know what you need, which is very common for me to
Right.
hear. So there's so many ways we can support. There are postpartum doulas that come and support families after the baby is born and you know, really help with that adjustment in those first few weeks that are so crucial. We tell families the importance of a postpartum doula really lies in their ability to support the postpartum body and mind. Very, very different. You know, this is not a sick person that just needs chicken noodle soup and rest. This is a very different healing process. And while you may have an amazing spouse, you may have an amazing mother and mother in law, you may have awesome siblings that will come and support you. Do they have the skills and the education to be able to identify when you may be going through a postpartum mood disorder? A lot of times, you know, we have pet names for things. You know, she's just going through baby blues, or you know, we all get that. Um, and sometimes we may,
Hmm.
our moms need a deeper level of care. And so, you know, take that responsibility off of your family and loved ones and allow someone that is trained, that is skilled in recognizing these things and helping connect to resources um, for these things. So that's why we really, really encourage families to kind of explore all of their available support during the pregnancy and postpartum period.
Do you feel like if more people were aware of this line of work, this profession, that it would decrease the birth mortality rate, especially in African American women?
Absolutely, absolutely. For those that may be listening or watching who are not aware, the mortality rate, maternal mortality rate for Black women is 4 times as high as our white counterparts. And when we take away factors such as socioeconomic status, education, and even lack of prenatal care, these stats show very, very clearly that. Um, for example, a Black woman with a doctorate level degree who is married and who is in excellent health will often receive worse care than an uneducated, unmarried white woman of the same age,
What?
less socioeconomic, lower socioeconomic status. Yes, we are seeing people, if you are familiar with perhaps Beyonce's story or Serena Williams' story, we know that Serena Williams is the best athlete on the planet right now. And you don't get to reach a level like that without absolutely knowing your body. This woman knows her body down to the cellular level, I'm sure. She probably sleeps to the minute to make sure that she has optimum performance, right? So when she was in labor and letting the staff of the hospital know that she didn't feel right, that something was wrong, that she thought that something was terribly wrong, and they were shooing away, her concerns as if she couldn't possibly know what she's talking about. Come to find out, she had clots. And, of course, there was a lot more urgency once they found out what was actually going wrong. But it really boils down to Black women are not being listened to. Black women are not being heard. Black women are not being cared for and have not been cared for in the U.S. healthcare systems ever. We have not. In recent years, we have seen, the headlines. We've seen the documentaries and we've seen this kind of huge surge in the access to the information. These numbers, we are seeing reports and statistics that are absolutely shocking, but I am here to tell you, it has always been this way. And when we see that we are losing Black women and Black babies at such an alarming rate, we must return to our roots. And what our roots look like are the granny midwives that cared for everyone in this country, that delivered every baby, Black, white, or indifferent, in this country, up until white men in white coats decided that they wanted to get in the game too. Before, birth was medicalized and turned into and healthcare was turned into a machine, a money-making machine. We were able to manage our own bodies. We were able to care for our sisters in our communities with such a warm with such a warm relationship, because that's my sis from down, we only live a couple neighborhoods over from one another. And this is the midwife that attends everyone's birth, everybody knows her. This is what we come from. This is the community, right? That that is so deeply rooted in us. And so now what we're seeing is Black birth workers really shining a light on the needs of Black women, because we have spent a lot of time lifting up other communities, and enough is enough. We are seeing Very clearly, there is absolutely no two ways about it. Hospitals are doing to Black women what police are doing to Black men. They are absolutely killing for sport
Mm,
at this time. We have health
mm,
systems that are not, they don't really have incentives to change, because they know they are the powers that be. And where are you going to go, especially in a city like mine in Pittsburgh, where we have one major health system that kind of rules them all? They know, where are you going to go? And having a doula, that looks like you, that talks like you, that knows you, that has a rapport with you, that knows your spouse, that knows your partner, that knows your children, that has been in your home and helped you prepare for this new life. Having that person next to you, really, shows, studies show that having someone, like a doula present, lowers instances of, needing C-sections, of prolonged labors. We are seeing moms that are much more emotionally well after having babies. And we know how very important that is, because we
mm,
are not, don't let these, the headlines are big, but they are not telling the whole story. Okay. We have to understand, we are not just
for sure.
losing moms in pregnancy. We are not just losing Black moms during the childbirth. We are also losing moms in the postpartum part of, their journey.
Mm,
Partly, some because we are not recognizing, um, very, very severe, postpartum mood disorders. We are not providing the proper support for moms' mental health, and we are losing moms to suicide at alarming rates. Alarming rates. We are also losing, on another side of that postpartum scale, we are also losing moms in the, postpartum, um, stage due to, they are having strokes due to extremely high blood pressure that is not being monitored. They are throwing our moms out after 2 days and saying, "Be well," putting a band-aid on and saying, "Go on out of here." They are, performing C-sections on our moms, and then, they're out of here, without much care to, making sure that they have the proper support at home. We are not supporting our moms physically, mentally, and emotionally before, during, and after pregnancy, and we are seeing the horrendous results. And so doulas are here to really turn that around, to educate not just moms, but families, so that there is a cocoon of knowledge around the family. And also that we can bring a little bit of joy back to birth. Shit's scary, right? Being
it
Black
is.
and pregnant, it's already scary just being Black, just being regular old Black before you ain't even pregnant. Then you add on top the vulnerability that you have to, um, that you have to display, that you have to have. Um, it's such an intimate time, and we just deserve to be surrounded by people that are knowledgeable, people that can speak your language, and really want to support and love you, and see you succeed, in this whole journey. And we're not getting that from our health. The real truth is, they screwing us all over. They screwing the white women over too. Okay, you know, they're just not dying as much. They're dying, just not as much.
Mm,
We're all getting screwed.
mm,
It's just Black women are getting the worst of the worst, of course. And so we, Black birth workers, enough is enough. We've been, boots on the
mm-hmm,
ground for a very long time, since the beginning. And so many of, the our ancestors that did this work before us were, pushed out of this, in favor of building, a medicalized health system, maternal health system. But we are letting families know that they do not have to birth in fear. They do not have to birth
mm-hmm.
alone. And they do not have to birth without being educated about what they're going to experience. It just makes the road a little bit less bumpy.
Mm. Why do you think, because I've never heard of a doula until this year.
Mhm.
Like, why do you think this profession is so hidden from society, or maybe it's just me because my kids are 12, they're about to be 13, and I've just been out of the baby game for a while. But like, has this like how long? I know we had midwives back in the way backs, but like this term doula and this profession, is it new? And why is it so hidden?
So it is not new at all. Doulas, you can think of these kind of trained birth keepers that worked alongside, worked in conjunction with midwives, and we work very similarly today. As long as women have been birthing babies, there has been um, kind of the knowledgeable person there to support and also encourage mom as she's in labor. And so the fact that you have not heard of a doula is absolutely not uncommon, and it's quite by design. A lot of people are not very knowledgeable on midwifery care and what that entails. And the same goes for doula work because this type of holistic care has been really, really frowned upon in modern society. Um, when we saw kind of the rise of a more medicalized um, um, healthcare system, of course, it was natural that birth was going to follow suit. Unfortunately, where we see the birth of the of obstetrics as a specialty was directly on the backs of Black women who were enslaved. These
Mm-hmm.
doctors would, a lot of people are not informed that they were performing very, very crude experiments and surgeries on unanesthetized African women who were enslaved. And so, literally, everything that they had learned was literally off the backs of Black women. And so, once they got all the information that they needed, they began to bill for their services and realize that this is money. And so once we started to see um, um, this presence of a more medicalized health system, it's kind of begin to shadow over and hover over and push out the originators of this work, right? And when you see these doctors pushing themselves into this work, we are presented with this, white man in white coat who is all knowing. He has gone to school and learned everything that there is to learn, and so we must trust him in all his infinite wisdom and knowledge. Now, listen, I am not telling anybody not to go to the doctor. I be going to the doctor. Okay, so let's just start right there. Your Black doula is not anti-doctor. I work very well with doctors. I love to um, create conversations and relationships with OBGYNs as well. Why? Because they taking care of our mamas. But what we have to realize is that um, they are not being taught the truth still to this day. There is still much
Mm.
literature that is being passed out to our newest doctors that are still teaching them that Black people don't feel pain in the same way that white people do.
Yeah.
This is still kind of what people are being taught. And when we have systems that have been built year after year after year after year on misinformation and lies and white supremacy and patriarchy, it is very, very difficult to kind of chip away at those things. And so having a
Mm-hmm.
doula, having a very knowledgeable and supportive OBGYN or midwife that is going to understand that doulas work with. We are just another support in that safety net for this family. Um, and you can find doctors. You can find doctors that are in favor of that, but it is absolutely by design that families are not knowledgeable on what doulas and midwifery care really look like.
Wow. That is insane. Like you would think that, with the medical system, they would want to, take advantage of all of the extra tools that they can in order to ensure that their patients are healthy and they get the best care, whether it be, in their network or outside of it. It's, like you said, work in conjunction with, you know, different people who can provide services to like kind of make their job a little bit easier. And it's crazy that, this isn't prevalent. Like, I really don't understand it. Like, it's just baffling to me. Do you feel like even as a child, when you think back, do you think, was this like the type of work that you always saw yourself doing? Not necessarily a doula, but, taking care of pregnant moms. I think you touched on this a little bit before, but do you think that as a child, this is how you saw your life?
So there are some similarities, absolutely, to how I saw my life. I have always been a nurturer. Um, that's kind of my thing now. Unfortunately, some of those tendencies for me to be a nurturer, with some negative influences, became a tendency to people please. But what I was able to get at a very young age was the need that pregnant bodies have for constant care. There was, what I saw was that pregnant women deserve and need to be pampered. They need rest. They need you to, fix food for them and go on walks with them. Like, this was just kind of knowledge. I'm just watching how my own family related when my mom was pregnant. And it really, really sparked in me a love for just being around, being in the atmosphere, that sacred atmosphere of pregnancy and birth. It is an absolute energy. And I think that is something I knew young, but just absolutely definitely didn't have the words for it. I just always wanted to, be up under the pregnant lady or the new baby. You always want to be, that was kind of, I was absolutely drawn to the energy and the sacredness of it. You saw people behave differently around pregnant women. And I'm going to be real with you. This is something that literally just popped into my brain. Pregnancy, a lot of times, especially as a young Black woman, is the only time where you see a Black woman being treated kindly and
Yeah.
lovingly for an
I already know where you're
extended period
going.
of time. You feel me? That
Yeah.
Girl, that just came in my brain. But to be all the way real, if you think back, a lot of times in my own parents' relationship, they got along the best when my mama was pregnant. That's when I saw him, most nurturing and pampering, and he was home more, all of that stuff. If you really think about it, that is when we see, if at all, it might not be seen a lot, but most of the time when you are seeing a woman that is being fawned over and loved on and hugged on and, it's when she's pregnant. I just wish that stayed the mindset of people, because as soon as you had a baby, people be like, "Oh, I'm busy," I was absolutely drawn to that energy, and caring for friends when I was in high school. I didn't know that what I was doing was doula work. It was just kind of, it came natural to me, and I knew I didn't want my friends to be by themselves having babies. It was kind of just, it made
Aw.
sense to me. So it was, if I had to catch the bus and meet my friend at the hospital and stay with her, if my friend had her baby and she needed to go to work, I would watch the baby. Like, we need help during that time. Everybody does. Everybody does.
Yeah. Agreed. So my last question to you is, what advice would your younger self give you today?
Oh man, I'm gonna be honest. All of the questions I went over, I said I'm going to go in and just flow, except this one is the only one where I was like, man, because you get a lot of people that say, what would you say to your younger self? And that's easy because you already got the wisdom.
Yeah,
You
that's
could be like,
easy.
oh, I'm gonna tell my younger
Right.
self, don't ever let your heart go and just bloom like a flower. Like you could say something, but this one right here, because Kiasha, my younger, I didn't know myself, but there was such a there was a searching happening, you know. Now looking back, I
Mm.
know that there were times where it would probably looked at as rebellion, or like I'm um, being abrasive or had an attitude. I was simply just trying to figure out, what I wanted and who I was. And I think my younger self would say to me, "It's about damn time." Cause
Oh,
I
I
ain't seen
love
your ass. Where
that.
you been at? That's what my younger self would
Yeah.
say. I beg your damn pardon.
I
Looking at
love
my watch,
that.
where you been at? You were supposed to meet me back here at such and such. I really truly feel that. And it's kind of like I can, when you look back as a grown woman, you can almost pinpoint those times where you went left and you really should have went right. Where so
Mhm.
every hindsight is always 2020, but baby, when that question, I loved it.
Mhm.
It really made me had to go back to me and think about where I was at that
Mhm.
time, what I wanted for myself at that time. Who was I imagining myself to be? And that about damn time is real. Is real. I
I
thank you for
love
that question. That
that.
was
Oh, for
dope.
sure, for
Yeah, that was
sure.
a really dope question.
So I think if I heard you right, you said when you were younger, you were still searching for who you were. But do you feel like when you were younger, coming up 5, 6, 7, you were your most authentic self?
I was.
Okay.
And especially in my teenage years, when when I was younger, I was a compliant child. I was a people pleaser. I just be, if I would be singing and dancing, and then when you was done being entertained, then I'm done, and I'll just go sit on in the corner, and now. But when I got older, I began to really break
Mm.
out of that mold and really explore, what do I like, what do I need. And a lot of that, I was met with, oh my gosh, she got an attitude now, she don't know who she is, and it was really just me wanting to step into who I wanted to be. And there were some
Mm.
detours because when people begin to beat you down, you begin to lose hope in your own self, in your own dream. And but I am absolutely finding my way back. And I think my younger self would be proud of me for it. At least getting right here.
Mm.
I think she
I think so too.
would.
I think so too. I think this conversation was actually even more funner than I thought it was. It was definitely intriguing. You kept my attention the whole time. So thank you for that. But something that you just said caught my attention. Once you started hitting those teenage years, you started to, be this non-conforming person, whereas before you were always, conforming to whatever rules and, regulations and things that people put before you. Now, those years, those teen years are called the rebellious stage. But I don't know. I guess like something with your answer just clicked is it's not a rebellious stage. It's me breaking away from what everybody told me I should be and trying to like find who I am.
Right.
Wow, I just got that. That was an epiphany too. Cause I feel like, oh shit, when I hit those teenage stages, I went through this big rebellion. And I felt shameful for that, for, when I would reflect back. But now I think it was just, like you said, me trying to break out of what everybody else told me I should be and find who I was. So
And oh
thank you
man,
for
yeah,
that.
it's
I
you're
appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. I man, my teenage years were um they were so interesting because I found that um that breaking out, it just felt I felt like a little smothered. Um a little claustrophobic. That's what those expectations begin to
Mm.
feel like. And so
Yes.
we talked about like
Yes.
putting on some of those. That's kind of this return to ourselves. If you really think about it, the in the in that 30 something age, that's not the first time it happens. That's usually the first time we're big enough, strong
Mm.
enough, and brave enough to actually say it and stand in it. Because when it first happens, you're about 2 years old. That's when your first um,
Right. Oh,
early
that's
childhood
true.
early childhood education is also in my
Yes.
background. You don't 30 years old ain't the first time you try to break
Okay.
free of these molds. You're 2 years old trying to do it yourself and do it your own way, and
That's
and,
true.
and
It's just
learn
at
your
30
own path.
you're consciously aware.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. At 2 years old,
Yeah.
everybody
Okay.
thinks
That
they
makes
know better than
sense.
you, but you know you
Yeah.
from before you get here. But people spend a lot of years trying to convince you out of it. Unless you have
Mm.
absolutely, you can have loving, amazing, intuitive, empathetic, compassionate, intelligent parents and family members that will allow you to bloom into who you are. But in past generations, that just was not a part of child rearing a lot of times. It was mostly structure
And a
and
lot of that was
discipline.
because of slavery,
Absolutely.
right? And like they didn't, yeah, that
Absolutely.
was like slave mentality that we have to behave a certain way. We have to walk a certain line, to kind of not get that bad
Right.
rap, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
And that's
yeah,
and
that's
that's where
interesting that you
the
brought that up.
and it's like you're unbraiding. These things have become so tight and a part of who you are, and they feel like they're your own beliefs. It could be something as easy as spanking. That can be a conversation so big and so full of emotion. When it really just boils down to, are we teaching our kids to hit or aren't we? What are we doing?
Mm.
And if you're not willing to look at where that comes from, who taught you to hit, and who taught them, and then who taught them, and who taught them, somebody showed them. And you have to be willing to say, I ain't showing this. I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna paint a different picture for mine. And if you're not willing, then it's just going to continue. But there has to be, and it's not. I'm not saying it like it's easy, because, like I said, I didn't get the big awakening
Mm-mm.
until I was 30 myself. But when you have enough people that love you, sometimes you get awesome little pieces of it, um, throughout your life. It could be someone when you're 2 years old that, rather than just yanking you up and hugging you and kiss you, that says, may I have a hug? May I have it? People are astonished when I walk up to their baby and say, may I have a hug? And they say,
Mm.
no, that's okay. Maybe another time. Give that lady a hug. Give Miss Kiasha a hug. Absolutely not. I will not. I will not steal hugs from that baby. They know if they want to hug me or not. I've had babies that have never seen me before just walk up and embrace me. That is what they want to do. And there's families that will, oh no, don't walk up to a stranger. You have to let kids are who they are from before they are born. And I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of parents miss the mark in thinking that the goal of parenting is to, especially Black parents, is to keep the kid out of trouble. Keep them
Mm-hmm.
safe, keep them out of trouble, keep them fed. They think about the very basic things, but we are responsible for teaching them to manage and to feel emotions without fear. We're supposed to teach them
Yes,
that.
girl, you better
We're
tell
not
it,
supposed to.
girl.
We're supposed to teach them. And guess
You
what? You
better.
can't do none of that if you don't know how to do it. It's just going to be,
Yeah.
if you don't have the awareness. My daughter is 16 and a half. I am nobody's perfect parent, but I know from the very beginning of when she was 2 years old, I'm extremely outgoing, loud, crazy, all that. My daughter is the cool, quiet Scorpio. And I remember going to her preschool teacher when she was 2, and I said, I need to have a meeting with you. The Virgo was Virgo. I need to have a meeting.
Oh, you a Virgo?
Um,
I'm a
yes.
Virgo.
Oh, hey. I'm September 6th.
On September 3rd, my love.
We like right on the other side of Beyonce, both of us. That's cute. That's cute.
Okay.
So I remember literally, saying, "Hey, I need us to schedule a meeting. I really, really need to talk to you about my daughter." She's like, "Okay." We meet up. She's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "She's just not outgoing. Like, she doesn't want to speak to people when they say hello. She doesn't want to, and people are offended. They don't. Now, mind you, this is a 2-year-old. People are offended. They're telling me she's rude, and I need to, teach her. I don't understand. Like, I never had a problem speaking to strangers. Why don't she just?" And she let me just get all my little energy out, and then she was like, "Let her be who she is." And I was like, "Excuse
What?
me?" She's
I thought I was teaching her who
right.
she
I'm like,
is.
"No, I'm supposed to be telling," and that is literally what people think, that you are supposed to be showing your child who they're supposed to be. Absolutely not. You are supposed to be
No.
there to help support who this person already is. Help them discover.
Hmm.
Don't make them have to take 30 damn years to return to themselves, because you've picked away
Mm.
at. You've filled their minds with your fears and your insecurities, and you don't need to wear that in front of men.
Yes.
And what do you think? I mean, all of these things, right? That we put onto our child before they're even old enough to know, this is who I am and this is what I'm gonna stand in. You're telling them to edit themselves. When she told
Mm.
me that, she said, "She is not you. She will not be you. Let her be who she is. She don't want to talk to people. You like talking to people. She don't. It's very simple and in your face." And I was taking that as, at first I took that as, "Why are you trying to tell me how to raise my child? Like, this is not what the meeting's supposed to be about." But then I realized,
It's like, first I was supposed to I came to
right,
ask you, but why are you trying to teach?
right. I need the tips and tricks to get her to say hello. Like, that's what I'm thinking. You're the teacher. She was like, "Oh no, that's not what we do." She says she's, perfectly on track. She's a little bit advanced. She was 2 already in preschool classes with 3-year-olds. So she was absolutely not lacking anywhere. She absolutely just knew who she wanted to speak to and knew who she didn't want to speak to. And it took me
Mm.
trusting in this little person, that she knows exactly who she is. And it is my job to help her become that best version, the highest version of that. And it's not on me to smack her up, flip and rub her down and turn her into something else. That's not what
Mm-hmm.
we're here for. And guess how much stress that took off me. These parents out
Girl,
here
I
trying to
bet a
force their
ton.
kid to be who they
I
ain't,
bet a backpack
and
full.
stressing your damn self. You
Y-
praying every Sunday that he is,
Yeah.
no.
And it's like, if you focus on all of that negativity and all that preventative maintenance, like, you actually draw that more to you and to your
Mm,
child if that's all you focus on.
exactly.
And I learned that lesson. It wasn't when my children were 2, unfortunately, but I still learned it from Guru. And he pretty much said, you don't raise kids, you raise cattle. You nurture children, you support them, you
You
stand
love
there, and
them. You
yeah,
encourage
you
them.
love them. Like, that's what you do with children. They're souls, just like
Hmm.
me, just like you. They're souls. They may, just have come out the womb, and, they just transition from whatever life they were in, prior to them coming here. But you don't
Hmm.
raise them, you nurture them. And I was like,
Absolutely.
okay. So I
Absolutely.
don't exert my will on them. It just took so
You
much
don't.
pressure off me,
And I will tell
because
you,
all of the things that I was taught, like, I
yes.
was able to release it
Hmm.
right then and there and let them be.
You
I
don't
gave
have
them
to
permission to be
uphold
from
them.
that moment forward.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And that's what you're doing, because the world is already going to tell your kid they're wrong at every turn. You hear parents that will say,
Yeah.
"Well, I'm hard on
Yep.
them because I want to prepare them for the world. The world ain't going to be easy." That is absolutely true,
Mm,
especially for Black children. However, where is their soft place to land? If you don't create that for them, we know the
yeah.
whole world is horrible. Why are you not creating the one place where they can be, just be and exist and feel that
Yep.
they are loved and
Yep.
appreciated and worthy just for being them? You have to create, you owe that to them. Them kids don't owe you nothing. Let me say
Hmm.
that again. Your kids don't owe you a thing. They don't owe you a good job. They don't owe you a college education. They don't owe you grandchildren. They don't owe you a beautiful estate to live in when you are old and gray. They don't owe you any of that. But I guarantee you, if you pour into your children what you owe them, then you don't have to worry about them putting you in a state when you get old. You don't have to worry about those things will come naturally, because when someone is loved right, they gonna love right.
For sure. And
It's
I feel like
very
with me, when I
simple.
think of generational wealth, I think about that nurturing, that, emotional intelligence, that love, that patience, teaching
Mm,
them about, just about themselves and how to
yeah,
show up in this world and be their authentic selves and be comfortable and be deserving. Like, I feel like that is generational wealth
right.
to me.
It
But,
is. It is, because anything else can
um,
blossom from that.
yeah, agreed. Um, so I think that is all of the questions that I have for you. I do want to be respectful of your time, but this has been an amazing conversation. I really
I agree.
appreciate you coming on. Any last words for anyone that may be listening, or where can they find you?
Yes. So I am known as Your Black Doula. You can find me on TikTok. Always teaching culturally relevant childbirth education right there on the TikTok. You can find me on Instagram at Your Black Doula and Facebook at Your Black Doula. And you will also soon find me in the podcast sphere as well. I will be launching.
Yay!
Thank you. I will soon be launching Birth Stories with Your Black Doula. I will welcome Black moms on
Mm,
to share their birth story, whether they would like to share it um, and share their name and the facility of the doctor. All you are free to share as much as you want, or you can be anonymous. I want a space for us to tell our true stories and for us to be validated. There are so many Black women um, that carry so much and have never told a soul. And we deserve for that weight to be lifted.
mm,
We deserve to share the beauty, the power, and we deserve to share the pain of Black birth. And I think it's time for us to have a safe space to do
yes.
that. Birth Stories with Your Black Doula. So that will be
Yes,
launching. You'll be able to find that
yes.
everywhere in September. So please be on the lookout for
Hey, I'll be tuning in. I'm gonna subscribe first. So,
that. Yay!
all right. So this has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate your time. Until then, continue to work towards knowing who you are and stay true to whoever you decide to be.